And come back to online classes. Today we are going to see the remaining part of the chapter number 3, History, Nazism and the Rise of Hitler. Today's our topic is the Nazi worldview. The crimes that Nazis committed were linked to a system of belief and a set of practices. Nazi ideology was synonymous with Hitler's worldview. According to this, there was no equality between people, but only a racial hierarchy. Let me explain you what is racial hierarchy. Racial hierarchy is a system of stratification that is based on the belief that some racial groups are superior to other racial groups. Actually, race means in Hindi what we call Vansh, Kul. So, in this view, blonde, blue eyed Nordic German Aryans were at the top, Jews were located at the lowest rung. They came to be regarded as an anti race, the arch enemies of the Aryans. All other colored people were placed in between depending upon their external features. Hitler's racism borrowed from thinkers like Charles Darwin and Herbert Spencer. Let me tell you about the Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was an English naturalist, geologist, and biologist, best known for his contributions to the science of evolution. The theory of evolution by natural selection, first formulated in Darwin's book on the origin of species in 1859, is a process by which organisms change over time as a result of changes in inheritable physical or behavioral traits. Then Herbert Spencer. About Herbert Spencer was an English philosopher, biologist, anthropologist, and sociologist famous for his theory of social Darwinism, whereby superior physical force shapes history. Spencer wrote Survival of the Fittest, implying those who were most fit would survive the social world due to some biological mechanism that made them superior. So, here Darwin was a natural scientist who tried to explain the creation of plants and animals through the concept of evolution and natural selection. Herbert Spencer later added the idea of survival of the fittest. According to this idea, only those species survived on Earth that could adapt themselves to the changing climatic condition. So, Darwin never advocated human intervention in what he thought was a purely natural process of selection. However, his ideas were used by racist thinkers and politicians to justify imperial rule over conquered peoples. The Nazi argument was simple: the strongest race would survive and the weak ones would perish. Here, perish means die or be destroyed. The Aryan race was the finest. It had to retain its purity, become stronger, and dominate the world. Next, the other aspect of Hitler's ideology related to the geopolitical concept of Lebensraum or living space. He believed that new territories had to be conquered for settlement. This would enhance the area of the mother country while enabling the settlers on new land to retain an intimate link with the place of their origin. It would also enhance the material resources and power of the German nation. Hitler intended to extend German boundaries by moving eastwards to concentrate all Germans geographically in one place. Poland became the laboratory for his experimentation. Now, establishment of the racial state. Once in power, the Nazis quickly began to implement their dream of creating an exclusive racial community of pure Germans by physically eliminating all those who were seen as undesirable in the extended empire. Here undesirable means not wanted, not pleasant, objectionable. That kind of undesirable were eliminated in the extended empire. Nazis wanted only a society of pure and healthy Nordic Aryans. They alone were considered desirable. Here, desirable means wanted. Who are present, only they were seen as worthy of prospering and multiplying against all others who were classed as undesirable. This meant that even those Germans who were seen as impure or abnormal had no right to exist. Under the euthanasia program, Helmut's father, along with other Nazi officials, had condemned to death many Germans who were considered mentally or physically unfit. So, in Germany, the Germans who were seen impure and abnormal, they also were killed. And under the euthanasia program, Helmut's father, along with Nazi officials, had been condemned to death. And some Germans also who were considered mentally or physically unfit, they were also condemned to death. Jews were not the only community classified as undesirable. There were others also, like gypsies. Many gypsies and blacks living in Nazi Germany were considered as racial inferiors who threatened the biological purity of the superior Aryan race. They were widely persecuted. Persecuted means to treat somebody in a cruel and unfair manner. So they were treated very cruelly and in unfair manner. Even Russians and Poles were considered subhuman and hence undeserving of any humanity. When Germany occupied Poland and parts of Russia captured, civilians were forced to work as slave labor. Many of them died simply through hard work and starvation. So, in this paragraph, gypsies are the group that were classified as gypsy, had their own community identity. Sinti and Roma were two such communities. Many of them trace their origin to India. So, next, not only in this paragraph, what we have seen is that Jews were not only community who were classified as undesirable. There were some other communities also, like gypsies and blacks living in Nazi Germany were considered as racial inferiors. Then Jews remained the worst sufferers in Nazi Germany. Nazi hatred of Jews had a precursor in the traditional Christian hostility towards Jews. They had been stereotyped as killers of Christ and usurers. Usurers here means moneylenders charging excessive interest, often used as a term of abuse. Until medieval times, Jews were barred from owning land. They survived mainly through trade and money lending. They lived in separate marked areas called ghettos. Ghettos here means a separately marked areas for the Jews where they could live. They were often persecuted through periodic organized violence and expulsion from the land. However, Hitler's hatred of Jews was based on pseudoscientific theories of race. Pseudoscientific here means falsely or mistakenly claimed or regarded as being based on scientific method, which held that conversion was no solution to the Jewish problem. It could be solved only through their total elimination. From 1933 to 1938, the Nazis terrorized, pauperized and segregated the Jews. Pauperized means reduced to absolute poverty, compelling them to leave the country. The next phase, 1939 to 1945, aimed at concentrating them in certain areas and eventually killing them in gas chambers in Poland. So, this was the situation of the Jews community and the other communities in Germany. The racial utopia. Under the shadow of the war, the Nazis proceeded to realize their murderous racial ideals. Genocide and war became two sides of the same coin. Here, genocide means systematic killing of racial or cultural groups. Occupied Poland was divided up. Much of the northwestern Poland was annexed to Germany. Annexed means here to take control of another country or region by force. Poles were forced to leave their homes and properties behind to be occupied by ethnic Germans, brought it from occupied Europe. Poles were then herded like cattle in the other part called the general government, the destination of all undesirables of the empire. Then members of the Polish intelligentsia were murdered in large numbers in order to keep the entire people intellectually and spiritually servile. Polish children who looked like Aryans were forcibly snatched from their mothers and examined by race expert. So, Polish children who all looked like Aryans, they were snatched from their mothers and they were firstly examined. So, if they found as a pure German Aryans, they were raised in German families, and if they are not, then they were sent to orphanages where most of them were perished. Most of them died. With some of the largest ghettos and gas chambers, the general government also served as the killing fields for the Jews. So here is the picture of the this is one of the freight car used to deport Jews to the death chambers. So children, this is the end of today's class, and tomorrow we are going to see topic youth in Nazi Germany. Thank you.